The thing is there's so much stigma and shame around this peptide that you all are like, oh, I would never take Ozempic, but I'm okay with microdosing it. And now we have this whole movement of influencers on social media saying, I'm using it for inflammation. I just found a dude using my name in his Facebook ads, and I had to send him a cease and desist letter. I did my due diligence as best I could. I went around conference after conference talking to compounding pharmacists. That's not what I'm proposing. That's never, ever what I was proposing. I know that I can get impassioned about this, so I will try to keep my voice calm and my cadence even, and I will try not to get too fired up. But every time I talk about this, I'm so grossed out, and I'm so frustrated because the inmates are running the asylum. I have no control over the conversation anymore, and it has got twisted into something so egregious, and my name keeps getting pulled into it. And I'm like, yo, I never said that. I never intended this to happen. And yet, of course, with anything good, as you know, people have to pull it back to their vanity, and they only hear what they want to hear. So they come off of hearing me on a podcast and they're like, this is going to be great. I'm going to go use it for weight loss. And then there's these predatory companies that are coming after you. Some of them are people who took my course, actually. I just found a dude using my name in his Facebook ads, and I had to send him a cease and desist letter. Dudes built a whole program around preying off middle-aged women because they get you in on this microdosing idea. They tell you it's for weight loss. They tell you it's effective. The thing is there's so much stigma and shame around this peptide that you all are like, oh, I would never take Ozempic, but I'm okay with microdosing it. And now we have this whole movement of influencers on social media saying, I'm using it for inflammation. And then they're affiliating with big telemedicine companies and small telemedicine companies, and they're getting a kickback. They're getting paid to convince you that microdosing is safe and that you can use it for your inflammation or for your longevity, but they're giving you a standard starting dose when you get in there. And I've had no fewer than 5 people in the past 2 days alone that I personally know message me and tell me, I got an ad for microdosing GLP1's with this telemedicine company or that telemedicine company, or my doctor told me they do it and they offer it. And in all 5 cases, those folks were being standard low dosed. Just given this, you're not being microdosed, folks. You're just being given the starting dose, the standard starting dose. And they've convinced you it's microdosing. And because you are hearing the stigma around it, or maybe you even feel the stigma around it, you don't want to be on Ozempic. You don't want to tell anyone you're on Ozempic. So you're going to tell them you're microdosing for health. But really, you're using it for weight loss. And you're using a standard dose, which does work for weight loss, but you're not microdosing. And none of this was ever anywhere near what I intended originally when I introduced this concept. It's gotten completely twisted and out of hand. So we're going to try to set the record straight on this episode. And I'm going to go through step by step, and I'm going to give you the goods. So let's go. Where are we at with things? First off, let's just talk about how this all started. 2 years ago, I came out on my podcast, and about 2 years ago, I came out on my podcast, and I came out with this idea that, without going into too much detail, because there's an entire podcast of me explaining my rationale, but my theory was, if we utilized tiny little doses of GLP-1 in the metabolically optimized already, this is a concept. This is a strategy that only works on those who are already metabolically optimized, folks. So if you're not one of those people, microdosing is probably not going to work for you. If someone's metabolically optimized, if their body composition is dialed in, if they're doing all the things, as I call it, right? They're strength training regularly. They're optimizing their sleep. They're on the HRT, hormone replacement therapy. They are setting their circadian rhythm and getting daylight regularly. They are eating nutritionally dense foods. They are mitigating their stress load. Those folks still have health issues, folks like me, right? I'm very lean. I have very low body fat. I've got a belly. You know, I've got a little bit more belly than I'd like. It's not as lean as it used to be, but I am pretty dialed in for a almost 52-year-old, right? For folks like us, we still have autoimmune disease. We still have pain. We still have joint issues. We still have issues. My thinking was, and my rationale, my hypothesis was, if we utilized a tiny little dose of GLP-1, because I found all this literature supporting the concept that it may be helpful. It's not a prevention, treatment, or cure. We're not doing any of that. It's part of a comprehensive treatment plan. It's part of a comprehensive peptide stack. Could we bring little tiny doses of GLP-1 on board. And would that potentially help with brain fog, because it had neurocognitive benefits showing? Would it be helpful with joint pain? Would it be helpful with autoimmune disease? Would it be helpful with stabilizing the immune system? So like mast cell activation syndrome, for instance, you get really robust histamine responses. We know that these peptides have receptors on mast cells. Would that stabilize the mast cell? I found literature supporting all of these potentials. And I thought, well, that would be interesting to try. Obviously, full disclosure, with the patients that I decided to work with, called up every single person I knew who was in the GLP-1 space or was using them or utilizing them in any way, shape, or form in their clinic, and asked them all the same question. Are you using these at tiny little doses for things outside of weight loss and body composition? Because we know in the bodybuilding space, they might be using them in very low doses for body composition. We know that, I knew folks that were using it at like half the standard starting dose for weight loss, and having weight loss programs ran on that, but they were starting doses. Those were onboarding doses. So while they were lower than the standard starting dose, they were still onboarding doses, and they would often need to ramp them up into something a little bit higher. I knew people using them in just the lower doses, period. So with semaglutide, that's 0.25 milligrams, and with tirzepatide, that's 2.5 milligrams. That's a standard starting dose. I knew people doctors that were using them there, and then maybe one tier up, and still having really excellent impacts on type 2 diabetes and weight loss. I couldn't find anybody that was dosing them how I was proposing, which was like less than half of the standard starting dose at the very most. And in fact, I was proposing a fifth to a tenth of the standard starting dose. I'm talking droplets, especially when we're talking about mast cell activation syndrome or people with chronic Lyme or chronic mold or people who are really, really sensitive and chronically ill, because their immune systems go poof, right? People with autoimmune disease like myself, people who have autoimmune driven pain like myself, and that can flare like that. You'd never want to hit those people with anything too hard. Everybody said no, they weren't using them off label for those reasons. Every single person I talked to told me that. There was one compounding pharmacist who told me about a doctor that was using them off label, but it sounded very much like that doctor was still using standard starting dose. So I did my due diligence as best I could. I went around conference after conference talking to compounding pharmacists. I talked to all of my professional colleagues. I did my due diligence. I never in a million years would have proposed like, oh, I came up with this, I'm so special. The reason I've ever said that this is my strategy was because I couldn't find anyone else doing it. And in fact, I hold to that because I've still got people saying, I've got doctors coming up to me saying, I don't know why you said that. We've been doing this forever. And I'm like, well, how do you dose it? Oh, at 2.5 milligrams. Okay, well, that's the standard starting dose. That's not a microdose. I'm talking micro. I'm talking a fifth to a tenth of the standard starting dose. Okay, so that's what you're doing. What are you using it for? Oh, weight loss and body composition. So I don't know. It's okay. I don't care who's doing what. And that's great. I never meant to take anybody's, proprietary methods away or claim that I was doing something so unique and novel. I just kept finding that I wasn't getting anybody answering me yes when I was asking those questions. So when people would come after I introduced this to the world on my podcast and then subsequently got on others' podcasts and started talking about this and going on the podcast tour, I kept having people say, well, can you send me to someone who does it like you? And I would recommend people that I knew that I thought were doing it that way. And then those people's patients would come back to me and say, I'm sick as a frickin' dog. I'm on the couch puking my guts out. What's going on? I'm like, what's your dose? And they tell me, I'm like, that's not a microdose. And even some of the bigger doctors out there who have told me they've been doing it forever, I've talked to their patients, and no shade on anyone. I've just talked to their patients, and their patients are on standard starting dose and losing a lot of weight on it. That's not what I'm proposing. That's never, ever what I was proposing. And so now I think in the allopathic community that's not in alignment with this, and the obesity community and some of the creators and doctors I'm seeing online really coming down on this, I get it. I'm with you because you're hearing microdose. You're thinking, oh, it's a vanity weight loss thing. It's frustrating for you because your patients are coming in asking for it. And you're probably understanding it to be a standard starting dose or maybe half. That's not what I ever proposed. So I just wanted to set the record straight there, okay? This isn't about me, but I wanted to at least share where I'm coming from because I keep getting pulled into this conversation. I keep getting tagged into these posts and I'm like, yo, and everyone's blowing up my DMs with them. And seriously, at the end of the day, I never, ever proposed this as a weight loss strategy. I think the people who are upset about it and pointing the finger at me have not listened to my content and have not listened to me explain this because I have explained this. And those of you who've heard me explain it are probably like, okay, Tina, we've heard it. You've heard me say this over and over and over again. This is not a weight loss strategy. In fact, I've been very clear. If you need to lose weight, and I'm talking over 20 pounds, you are definitely looking at standard dosing. I've been very clear about this. I'm very clear about it in my free 4-part video series. If you haven't go watch that yet, it's great. Go to my website, drtina.com, DRTYNA. At the top, you'll see the offer to click there. It's called GLP1 Uncovered. Click there. 4-part video series will drop in. I'm actually revamping this. So at some point, if you're watching this in the future, you may actually see a different video there, but all the content will still remain the same. I just want to make sure to update it here soon. And then I sell a course to clinicians and to health professionals. And I let the general public into that. And you'll be able to purchase that course, I think on day 3 or 4, after you opt in to that funnel of free videos. So I highly encourage you go there right now. It's drtina.com/Ozempic Uncovered. Good education there. It's a good starting point. I've got 20 plus hours of free material about GLP1s on my podcast. You can go to drtina.com. You can click on the podcast link. It will take you to a page where you will see all of my podcasts categorized by category. And there's a whole series called GLP1 Uncovered. And there's a multitude. I have probably over a dozen videos there at this point, podcasts. This episode of the Dr. Tina Show, we're going to sit down for a minute and have a talk because I think the time has come. This whole microdosing for weight loss and nonsense that's going around the internet